right, so this morning, as I was preparing for today's talk, I ended up going in a completely different direction because I got an email in my inbox from someone who I follow on Substack. And it was so good, and it was all about her experience after attending a couple of events and the impact that some of the speakers that she encountered had on her and the work that she's doing as a transformational coach and intuitive healer. And so the email itself came from Michelle Barr. The quote that we had in meditation is hers. There will be a few more. And the speaker who really kind of blew her mind is transformational coach, former monk, and author Jay Shetty. And he was doing a talk at some conference. I don't know what conference it was at, she didn't say. But he talked about how at any point in time, and we've talked about this a lot here too, we are in a state of being that is either primal or powerful. That there's this constant tug of war going on for us. You know, are we showing up according to the circumstances that are going on around us that are maybe activating our survival brain? Or are we showing up standing in our inner spiritual authority, in our agency and choice and knowing, grounded in like, love is my true nature. And so he said that this is going on a regular basis all the time, right? Like, this is what I know, this is who I am. Oh, wait a minute, this is vying for my attention and I'm getting caught up in this spiral or going down the rabbit hole of whatever else is going on around me. And so what he said that really made her go, whoa, was that beliefs are decisions. What does that sound like to you guys? I see some eyes going up. I see some thinking. Beliefs are decisions. Okay, one of the things that we talk about in New Thought is that we are always at choice. And not just at choice, we are always, always choosing. Every single moment of every single day, we are choosing. We are making a decision. Most of the time, we're not even aware that we're doing it, okay? As research has shown that about 95% of the time, we're just going by rote. We're going on what we have thought, what we have believed, what we have experienced, the memories, all the stuff that has happened to us before. We're just recycling it and doing it in some way in the present moment. And then if we don't do something different, we're going to continue doing that in the future. But about 5% of the time, like when we come together in community here at Celebrate, or Elevate on Thursdays, we are consciously thinking. We are consciously, intentionally opening our hearts. We are more present than we normally are because we know that there is so much more to life than what we can experience through our five senses. And that if we don't allow ourselves opportunity to open up to that, then we're going to continue simply experiencing life through our five senses, which can be kind of limiting, okay? Not to say that it's bad or wrong, but there are limitations to what we can experience through our senses. And so his whole thing was that as you go through this tug of war from moment to moment to moment, as you realize that beliefs are decisions, you really have to start thinking, well, what is it that I am deciding? What is it that I am choosing? And so the title of my talk, super early on in the talk today, is Beliefs Are Decisions, so what are you deciding? And so what he wanted to make clear, and what we talk about here, and what Michelle Barr talked about in her email, is that there is always the opportunity to create life from the familiar versus the unfamiliar, from the known versus unknown, from a state of surviving versus a state of thriving, from reaction versus vision. And so as I kept reading, you know, she talks about how decisions become beliefs. Beliefs become filters, and then those filters, or that lens, which is something that I talked about last week, is how we create and experience our life. And if that lens is based on decisions that are based on beliefs that say, you know, I don't know how, I'm not enough, life is, you know, there's danger lurking around every corner, then that filter is going to show you and guide you towards all of those circumstances and opportunities and experiences that prove that this filter is the exact right filter for you. So you're going to get more proof of how you're not good enough, you don't know how, life is going to hell in a handbasket, all of that negative stuff. But the same goes for positive or different ones or open-ended or open-minded beliefs, right? where you're open to new experiences, you're open to new opportunities. I have no idea, but I trust and know I'm going to be guided along the way, and whatever I need, the resources, the people, the connections, the money, the time, the energy, it's all going to show up for me. I have no idea how, but I know it's possible, right? And if that's your lens, if those are the beliefs that are informing your decisions, you're going to have a very different life experience. Yet we tend to go back and forth because sometimes we are confident, we are anchored, we know this, right, in every fiber of our being. And then something happens, someone says something, we are triggered or stimulated and activated in a way that has something to do with something that happened in the past, and boom, we are dragged right back to that experience, that emotion, that belief, and then because that belief is still sort of running the show in the subconscious, then that becomes our experience in the present moment. And so what Michelle Barr writes is, when we operate from external authority, we allow conditions, opinions, fears, past experiences, and other people to determine our choices. There is this amazing spiritual principle in New Thought, specifically in science of mind or religious science, that comes from Thomas Troward, where he said many, many moons ago, principle is not bound by precedent. And what that essentially means in plain old English is that there is nothing that you have done, nothing that you have experienced, nothing that has ever happened before that could possibly have any bearing on who and what you are at your core. Even if you drag the experience into the present moment, who and what you are is so infinite, so powerful, so creative, so resilient, that there could be this multiplied a million, gazillion, billion, trillion, cajillion, infinite fold, and who and what you are at your core is still bigger and more powerful than that. So it doesn't matter how much of this stuff went on, there is still that in you that is always so whole, so pure, so powerful, so intact, that at any moment you can tune into this and change your experience that's happening in the moment, even if it's in relation to this that happened before. She goes on to say, when we operate from internal authority, this is our meditation quote, we choose from vision rather than reaction, from possibility rather than protection, from destiny rather than history. So basically, just because something has happened before doesn't mean it's going to happen again. Just because life has looked and felt a certain way before doesn't mean it has to unfold that way going forward. Right here in the now moment, we're at a crossroads every single time, and our work is to intentionally, consciously choose this. Love is my true nature. Love is my true nature no matter what. Now, here's the thing. There's this change your thinking, change your life, phrase, statement that has been around for a long, long time. And once upon a time, maybe that was enough. Maybe you could change your thinking and you could change your life experience. But I can only speak to personal experience right now in this lifetime, in this body, in this experience that I'm having. And what I can offer, and a lot of you know from my experience from last year after being in that collision, how thinking was not something I could even do. Because of the concussion that I was experiencing, I could not focus, I could not think, I was an absolute wreck, mentally and emotionally. I could not even pray. And for someone who's in the consciousness business, for someone whose job it is to be able to pray and know for myself and for others, to not be able to do that was one of the most distressing things I have ever experienced. And so the thing that I turned to was the body. And at the same time, I was in this relaxed money program that was all about money and the nervous system, and I was learning more and more about the nervous system, even after working at a chiropractic clinic for 3.5 years, where all I was immersed in was the nervous system, but somehow this new way of, experiencing was like, whoa, this is so cool. And so the whole point of what happened for me was I had to get into the body. And by getting into the body, I was able to signal to my brain, to my nervous system, that it was okay to go through what I was going through, that it was okay that I had the tools, I had the capacity to be able to process the emotions that I was feeling and experiencing, And in processing those emotions, then slowly but surely, through that signaling of safety, I could begin to access my mind again. I could begin to pray again. I could begin to transform. And so the whole change your thinking, change your life, for a lot of people, it's not enough. Because if your body goes into protective mode, which is fight, flight, freeze, fawn, if it goes into protective mode, it goes into survival mode, you're going into the back part of your brain, and there is absolutely no way you don't have the capacity and you don't have the calories to learn or experience anything that is brand new. Okay? Your brain can't do it. And so you need to signal safety. You got to have your nervous system practices. You got to be able to regulate in some way. There's so many different practices. Do whatever it is that you need to do, because then that allows you to process the emotion. And so often there is emotion that is anchored and entangled and enmeshed in these beliefs that we have. So just to simply say, think a new belief, tell a new story. Well, that's all well and good if it's something that is easy, but what if it's something that is more layered? What if it's something that is more ingrained? What if it's something that is longer standing? What if it's something that is generational? What if, for whatever reason, so thinking isn't enough, you got to get to the emotion. And then just like David Hawkins says, once you get to the emotion, you work through, you process and metabolize the emotion, any thoughts, any beliefs associated with that emotion, they just dissipate. And that's when you start entertaining a new belief. Because now you have the capacity. Now you're back in this part of the brain, the middle and prefrontal cortex, that is all about focus and being in the present moment and clarity, right? And action. So signaling safety is so, so important, because thinking or believing something new, it triggers that primal state that Jay Shetty was talking about in his speech. And that means you're in survival mode, and it means there's limited capacity. Making a new decision, opening up to the unfamiliar, same thing. But when you signal that safety, process the emotion, those thoughts and beliefs dissipate, you increase the capacity to open up to the love you truly are and embody it more fully. Now, last week, there was something else cool that happened. There was a screening of a film, a documentary called Who Do You Think You Are by Alan, Bass, and Jose Garcia. Winnie was there. Was there anyone else here? I think it was just Winnie and I. No, John, did you go? I can't remember. You didn't go. It was so good. It was at the UVic Multi-Faith Center, and I really would love to, at some point when it is available, to screen it here, have a movie night here, because it was just an hour long, and then to just have sort of a discussion afterwards, because it was so good, because it was all about consciousness, and it was all about how it is essential in order for any kind of change, any kind of transformation on the individual level, on the societal level, on the systemic level. It is about consciousness, not about finding solutions or changing things sort of at the external or the conventional level. We have to go deeper. We have to go underneath, because these problems, these challenges, these obstacles, they were all created from a certain level of consciousness, and the solutions for those things are not going to come from that same level of consciousness. So we need to not just remember who we are, we need to embody who we are, and we need to then show up every single moment, again and again and again, not just for ourselves, not just for our community, but for our world. And so what the cool thing was one of the people that they interviewed, at the very beginning, it was Neil Donald Walsh. At the very beginning, he said something along the lines of, the greatest problem in the world today is that we don't remember who we are. And then the last thing was from him, and what it was, you are an individuation of God, so act like it. And I was like, oh my God, I love that, because I wrote something so similar in a book that I published with a bunch of authors a couple of years ago. So this to me is a declaration and an invitation that all of us could take to heart more, right? It's not just enough to remember. Like according to Rupert Spira, we don't need to remember. We just need to be. We just need to be more of who we are. And so back to Michelle Barr and the email that she wrote, she also is talking about how we're always at choice, every single moment of every single day. Transformation is not about controlling circumstances. It's about changing the source from which you make your decisions. Now, there's this book called Good to Greatness, and I may have read from it here before, but there are 20 authors who participated in putting this book together a few years ago. I was invited to be one of them. And basically, they're 1,500-word essays on how to move from good to greatness. And so this is what I wrote, and this is what I want to end with today. When I make a decision from my vision instead of from where I am today, I am consciously choosing to let go of the old thoughts, stories, and beliefs that have gotten me to this moment and open up to something new. Living our greatness is about being willing to continually step out of our comfort zone. It's about leaning into, embracing, and embodying the infinite energy, spirit, love we truly are. It's about consciously choosing to know that we are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. It's about being in integrity in every aspect of our life, even when it's hard, and especially when no one's watching. It's about making decisions from our vision to challenge, stretch, and propel ourselves into possibilities we couldn't have imagined, trusting and knowing that no matter what, all the resources required to make our decision right are available to us right here, right now, and always. So my question to you is, are you ready and willing to live your greatness? The choice is yours. You are infinite creativity, resilience, and love. Now act like it. Thank you, and so it is.